There are a ton of hated characters in the apocalypse, but for every baddie, there's also an angel, although sometimes in disguise. The first hated character is Lori Grimes. Lori meets the apocalypse already neck-deep in family drama and somehow makes it worse at every possible turn. She learns from her husband Rick's best friend that he's gone forever, jumps into a relationship with him for safety within a 2-month time period, then shuts it down the second that Rick miraculously shows up at their camp. The tension she creates between Rick and Shane fractures the group from day one. Instead of letting the love triangle die by ending it publicly, she keeps it alive with whispered conversations that push Shane towards an inevitable confrontation with Rick. The pregnancy adds another complication since nobody knows if the baby belongs to Rick or Shane thanks to Hear Fast Switch Up, all while supplies vanish fast. Even at the prison, she pulls Rick away from important duties to debate morality and treats him poorly while the undead pile up around them. Her C-section forces Maggie to cut without proper medical tools, which unfortunately makes Carl fire the shot no kid should ever have to, sending Rick spiraling into madness that nearly destroys his leadership forever, in part due to her treatment of him. Lori proves that personal drama becomes very deadly when every breath already costs so much courage and maturity. She's one of the few OGs that people hate, but our next character is the total opposite, Daryl Dixon. Daryl starts out as a squirrel-hunting, stranger-cursing hothead who threatens to gut anyone touching his stuff, but fans quickly spot the heart beneath all that grime as they see more of him. He tracks a missing girl over a period of days, sleeping in ditches and diving into dirty areas to follow tracks most people would never notice. After Sophia's tragic fate, instead of pulling away, he doubles down on loyalty by bringing Carol special roses, taking care of survivors, and volunteering for every dangerous mission that pops up. His brief relationship with Beth also reveals his softer side through quiet conversations over moonshine and shared songs in an abandoned house. When she's kidnapped, he chases after her in the darkness until he physically can't go further. Under Negan's torture, Daryl goes through intense isolation, constantly blaring music and dog food meals every day without ever considering betraying his people. Later, he scouts out Whisperer territory, putting himself at risk for the sake of the greater good. He rarely speaks much, but every grunt and arrow fired protects someone else from harm. When Hilltop collapses, Daryl carries Lydia through the danger while dodging attacks. Leadership falls on him almost accidentally after Rick disappears, but he wears it like his vest, quiet and reliable. As long as Daryl breathes, viewers know there's still hope for the rest of the characters. But now for someone who really got under everyone's skin, right until her final breath, Andrea. Andrea starts her journey firing weapons and refusing to hide, irritating fans, but holding a certain level of respect until she trades what little good judgment she had for a bad, toxic romance. Woodbury looks perfect on the surface, but red flags are everywhere as time goes by. Tanks, armed guards at every door, and Merle lurking around like a trained attack dog, ready for his next meal. Michonne's instincts scream danger, but Andrea repeatedly dismisses all warnings because a smooth-talking governor offers her cold lemonade and dreams of rebuilding a new, moral civilization. She abandons the tight-knit group that kept her alive for so long in exchange for a man who hosts zombie fighting rings for entertainment. When Michonne leaves, Andrea chooses to stay behind, convincing herself that she can create peace while ignoring the constant raids, the torture of Glenn and Maggie, and plans to attack the prison. Her visits to the prison always end with empty promises that she just needs more time, but nothing ever works that way. That mindset costs Axel his life, costs Herschel his life, and subjects the group to weeks of terror. By the time she finally decides to stop the governor for good, she's outsmarted and strapped to a chair, desperately trying to grab pliers with her toes before one of her only-turned friends can bite her. Making one bad judgment is human, but a dozen willful blind spots in a row turned audience sympathy into pure frustration, and she's always been one of the most hated characters by far. But not everybody in the show has been so bad at making good decisions. Our next character's first one is what started the whole show, Glenn Rhee. Glenn's introduction to Rick comes through a walkie-talkie with the memorable line, "Hey you dumbass," but his tone isn't just insult, it's an apprehensive form of heroism. He manages to get Rick safely away from the tank he's stuck in, and guides him through back alley mazes that only a pizza delivery guy would know. That quick thinking defines him throughout the entire show, always willing to step up and make plans on the go. At the farm, he teaches Herschel's people tactical strategies and still finds time to fall for Maggie in a world surrounded by danger. In Woodbury's torture room, Glenn breaks free from duct tape, stabs a walker through the skull with a chair leg, and protects Maggie in one smooth series of dangerous moves. He forgives Tara after she attacks the prison with the governor because Glenn judges people by their feelings and remorse rather than past mistakes. His compassion reaches its peak when he refuses to abandon Nicholas despite the man's attempt to murder him, proving that Glenn sees redemption where others only see betrayal and a need for justice. The lineup under Negan's bat feels like time standing still, and when Lucille comes down, hope itself shatters. His death still echoes through later seasons, with characters and fans alike measuring people against Glenn's standard, but he can never truly be replaced. In a world full of undead, good guys can only get so far. And sometimes, the greatest evil isn't the Walking Dead, but the confident smooth talkers who manage to pit people against each other. The Governor. Philip Blake calls himself the Governor, disguises his cruelty with smooth speeches and community gatherings, but keeps aquariums filled with severed heads glowing in his private room. He massacres National Guard survivors after greeting them as friends, then spins a heroic story to Woodbury residents about how he kept them safe. He sings lullabies to his undead daughter Penny chained up in a secret room while planning attacks on innocents to maintain his twister power. When Merle captures Glenn and Maggie, the governor tries charm first, then uses violence, locking them in a room with a walker to force information. After Michonne destroys Penny and blinds him in one eye, his friendly mask burns away completely. He rallies Woodbury with calls for revenge, but soon executes them all once they lose their nerve and refuse to follow his orders. Even after his plans fall apart, he returns with a new name, charms yet another community, and repeats the same pattern, proving that some people prefer destruction over compromise. Audiences hate him because, unlike mindless walkers, the governor consciously chooses evil every single day and wants to inflict maximum harm on his targets, whether they deserve it or not. Carol Pelletier. Carol begins with bruises hidden under timid smiles, but the apocalypse breaks that shell wide open. After Sophia vanishes, grief transforms into a determination to survive. She practices knife techniques on porch posts, then secretly teaches children the same skills during story time at the prison. During the flu outbreak, she kills Karen and David to contain the disease, a brutal but calculated decision to save everyone else. Rick exiles her after this, and she survives only by mastering stealth. Face covered in mud, cloaked in walker guts, becoming a one-woman rescue team, she arrives at Terminus to blow up a propane tank, filling the yard with flames, then picks off cannibals through the smoke like a ghost as Rick's group escapes thanks to her efforts. In Alexandria, she transforms again, baking casseroles and wearing cardigans so residents underestimate her while she scouts for threats, hiding in plain sight. Young Sam's vulnerability touches her heart, but she warns him with the harsh truth because false comfort gets people killed, as she's seen far too many times. When Alpha displays heads on pikes, Carol carries the guilt for Henry's death, but patiently plots her revenge like a strategist. Fans admire her because every transformation aims to protect her people, and every scar becomes another layer of strength, creating a deeply complex and incredible character. Now we have someone who earned full hatred with just a few episodes, Nicholas. Inside Alexandria's walls, Nicholas wears a runner's jacket and a confident smile, but reality quickly exposes his true nature. During a supply run, he panics at the danger of walkers, climbs into a revolving door, and defies orders, causing the trapping of Glenn and Noah in the midst of undead, resulting in Noah being torn apart while Nicholas escapes. Back in safety, he rewrites the story, painting himself as the hero and Glenn as the reckless outsider who got everyone hurt. Wounded pride drives him to lure Glenn into the woods after his safe return, shoot him, and try to leave him as walker bait, only to be beaten and spared. Given a second chance, Nicholas promises to change, but fear takes over again when the quarry herd breaks loose. Trapped on a dumpster surrounded by thousands of walkers, he chooses suicide over fighting, shooting himself in the head. His falling body knocks Glenn into the swarm below, causing days of agonizing uncertainty for fans worldwide, as they thought he had caused the death of one of the show's longest-lasting and most beloved characters. Nicholas embodies the painful truth that cowardice and lack of conviction can kill more effectively than any walker bite. But our next loved character was our introduction to the fact that not all walkers can bite, Michonne Hawthorne. A lone figure dragging two armless and toothless walkers through eerie woods gets us our first look at Michonne before we properly meet her. Her katana flashes in moonlight, cutting silently, preserving ammunition that others waste. Beyond her excellent fighting skills, her real strength comes from intuition, sensing Woodbury's corruption before Andrea, understanding Rick's grief-stricken mind, and winning over the suspicious Carl with quiet humor about childish things. After the bridge explosion, when Rick vanishes, Michonne keeps his memory alive, raising Judith and RJ with stories of their father's courage. She organizes trading fairs, creates laws between communities, and still leads dangerous missions when whisperers threaten from the shadows. Years later, she sails north following a clue that Rick might still be alive, because her loyalty knows no limits of time or distance. Fans love her combination of deadly skill and deep wisdom, living proof that a warrior's heart can hold endless love without losing its edge. Although she had a real soft spot for kids, there's one that everyone in the fandom despises: Sam Anderson. Sam's world consisted of bedtime stories and cookies until Rick's group arrived in Alexandria, tearing away the community's false sense of security. Carol's warnings about monsters who eat little boys haunt his nightmares, mixing walkers with childhood fears. When the massive herd breaks through Alexandria, survival depends on silence, walker guts, and steeled nerves. Sam holds on to his mother, steps into the street filled with walkers, but his mind keeps replaying Carol's threats louder than the groans around him. "Mom?" he whimpers once as he attracts walker attention, then freezes completely. The bite hits him first. His scream triggers panic of the others around him. After witnessing his little brother and mother's deaths, Ron raises a gun at Rick. Michonne's sword swings, a bullet grazes past Carl's eye, and the group is never the same again. A chain reaction of death started by one child's terror, who was irritating throughout his time on the show. Blaming a kid feels harsh, but in a world where noise equals death, Sam's breakdown and inability to listen to his mother's pleas for silence represent every survivor's deepest fear, that when push comes to shove, they might break too. This brings us to the final character in our video, the man who lost it all, then found it again, Rick Grimes. Rick's journey begins in a sheriff's uniform and ends in CRM military gear. But his core never changes. Protect the living, honor the fallen, avoid the dead. He wakes in an abandoned hospital, navigates hallways filled with the risen dead, and still takes time to cover a partial corpse with a sheet out of respect. From that moment forward, leadership isn't something he seeks, but something that finds him naturally, thanks to his genuine nature and strong management skills. He guides strangers through Atlanta, negotiates with Herschel for safety, brute forces his way through the CDC's self-destruct system, and confronts Shane in a moonlit field where their friendship turns deadly. Prison life reveals his farmer side, planting crops and raising pigs until threats force the return of his machete. Beneath Terminus, Rick marks Gareth for death with the chilling promise they're screwing with the wrong people, then delivers on that promise with brutal efficiency. Alexandria softens him a bit, until Negan's bat destroys everything he built over the years. Kneeling in mud, face streaked with tears, Rick still memorizes every detail, so no death goes forgotten. Sparing Negan honors Carl's final wish for a future built on mercy rather than vengeance, which creates a vicious cycle. When he blows up the bridge to divert the herd, bleeding and seeing visions of lost friends, he whispers, "I found them," referring to his line, "I'm looking for my family," way back when the show first started. Rescue helicopters carry him away, but stories of Rick inspire new journeys and spin-offs, which continue to this day. He remains the moral compass fans use whenever the show ventures into dark areas. A reminder that even surrounded by death and decay, humanity can still lead the way. So that's been the most loved versus most hated characters from The Walking Dead. Do you agree with our picks, or is there somebody else you'd put in? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to see more of The Walking Dead content, click the video on screen now.